Hi, my name is Sarah Delaney with OpenSciEd, and I'm here to introduce you to our new Google Classroom Uploader tool. So there's a few things I'm going to show you before we get started, just so you have a sense of how this tool is working. The first is I'm going to show you my existing Google Classroom. So you can see here in my existing Google Classroom before I've used my tool. So I just have one class called My Science class for period 1. And when I look in here, I see that I have a few students. I have 4 students enrolled in this class. It's a pretty small class. And you can see that there's currently no classwork or stream. Everything is blank in here. So I'm going to go back to classes. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm going to show you my drive. And this account, I've not been using it very much. This account is pretty empty. I have one folder for that existing class. So here's My Science class, period 1. And I don't have a lot of other documents in this Google Drive folder as it is. So I'm going to show you now how to use the Google Classroom Uploader. And you're going to go ahead and find it by going to the units. So here I'm going to go to Access the Instructional Materials. Today we're going to look at Unit 6.1. And I'm going to go download the unit. Now at this point, if I wasn't logged in, I would be prompted to go register or log in with my account, but I'm already logged in, so we can go ahead and move forward with this. And in another video, I talk about all the different versions of our materials and what they're good for and how to use them. Today, we're going to just jump right into the Google Classroom version. You'll see some information about how this works, and we're going to go through that together. You can also see that we have it in English. This is the Sync to Google Classroom. This is in English. We also offer it in Spanish, and if you're wanting to access that, it'll make a new class that's got all the materials in Spanish, but today we're going to go ahead and look at the English one. So I'm going to click this Sync to Google Classroom. And I get a pop-up here that's asking me to sign in with Google to load this to Google Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Sign in with Google. And it's going to prompt me to choose my account. This is an important thing. If you have multiple accounts with Google, you're going to want to make sure to choose the account that you want the classes to live in. So if you want it to go to your work Google Classroom, you're going to want to choose your work account here. After selecting the account I want to sync the classroom loader to, I'm then asked to give permission to allow the classroom loader to access both my Google Drive and my Google Classroom. In order for the loader to work, it's important that you give permission to all of these items. We need to be able to make folders and files in your Google Drive to copy over all of the materials that will be assigned as part of the Google Classroom loader. And we also need permission to make classes, posts, and assignments within your Google Classroom. One thing to note is a brand new class will be made rather than adding this to any existing classrooms with enrolled students. So this new class will not be touching any of your enrolled students until you choose to assign items to your existing classes. The Google Classroom loader was submitted to Google, and they approved the way that we're sharing data and ensuring that it's done safely. You can read more about this in any of these individual items or in our privacy policy or terms of service. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, and we'll show you what the next step looks like. After giving permission, I'm now prompted to confirm that this class should be loaded into my Google Classroom. And I'm going to confirm that in sync with Google Classroom. And as you can see, the sync is now in process, and I'm encouraged and asked to not close this window until this process is over. This process takes a few minutes, so you should start it when you're in a position to leave a window open. So it took about a minute and a half for this to work, and now I see that the sync is successful and I can check out the new class below. So here is my Unit 6.1, Light and Matter. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm taken to my Google Classroom. First, I have one last prompt here where I'm asked if I would like to teach this class, Unit 6.1 Light and Matter. It says it was created by your administrator, which is us and the, and the Google Classroom Loader. I'm going to go ahead and accept this because I trust it. And now I'm in my new class. The class is called Unit 6.1 Light and Matter. Some things to note here is when I look at my classes, this now is added as a separate class from my existing. So when we talk about this being different and not connected to the enrolled students, if I look in my new class here, you'll see that the people, I have 0 students enrolled in this. So this makes a brand new class that's separate than my existing classes. So I could go back to my other class here and see that my people, I have enrolled my 4 students, and those are separate and they are not included in my new Google Classroom class called Light and Matter. So here in this one, I have no students enrolled. So let's go ahead and jump into my new class and look around here. So you'll see there's nothing on the stream here. Where you'll see all of the items are within the classwork section. All of these items show up as drafts, which is why they are a light gray. And I can click view more and see that they go all the way down to lesson 1, and the last lessons are on top. I'm going to go ahead and show you a few things about how we use this and how we've created this. You'll see that there are materials and there are assignments here. So we'll go ahead and open one of these, this initial model. What I can do is each of these items is in here as a draft. I can go ahead and open up this assignment. I can change the title as I wish. I can also change the instructions here. So if I want to change up how I'm thinking about this, I can change that up. And I can also change what is attached and how it's attached. So this particular item is an assignment, and I have each of these handouts assigned to make a copy for each student. If I decided I wanted to change this, I can change it to have students can view file, they can edit file. But for this, I want to assign a copy of this to each student. I'm going to go ahead and assign a copy for each student. Now that was what was there as part of the draft because it's what we've determined would be most useful for this type of assignment. We would want every student to make an initial diagram. So this is what it looks like. And as you see, I just changed the title and added for today, and I've kept that. So now it has my edited text on it, and it's currently still in draft form. If I decided I wanted to assign this, there are 2 different ways that you can assign materials from the OpenSciEd version of the class to your individual classes with students enrolled in them. One way is you can go to actual assignments within the OpenSciEd class and edit the assignment and go over here and you can select which classes you want to assign this to. The downside of this is that it doesn't allow you to select which students you'll be assigning this to because it's being assigned to multiple classes. So while this works, it doesn't give you all the functionality that you might want to take advantage of. So rather than starting in the OpenSciEd version of the class, I recommend that you go to your actual classes. So this is my class period 1, and I'm going to go to the classwork and select create. Rather than creating one of these from scratch, I'm going to select reuse post. And what it's going to do is give me an option of which classes to select from. And when I select, I'm selecting one of the OpenSciEd classes. So here's my Spanish version, here's my English version. And then I can go and I can select which assignment I want to post here. And you can see that they're still listed as draft here, and I can see who the teacher was. So I'm going to go ahead and select lesson 8, and I'm going to click reuse. And now what pops up is the lesson 8, and I can still go and modify any of the items here and change how things are assigned. But what I'm able to do now is I'm able to select which students. So I could say all students. I could assign this just to the 2 Sarahs in my class here. So I have the functionality of changing it and assigning to certain students. So that's what it looks like when we are assigning and reusing a post from the OpenSciEd version. And this is probably a little bit cleaner and allows you to use the functionality of selecting students. Another item that we have in the Google Classroom loader is we have materials. So an example of a material is this classroom norms handout. So this is not an assignment. This is a material. So we want to share this with students. This is a handout that will be useful to them. We want them to have it as part of their Google Classroom. So it says use the attached link to access our class's classroom norms. And so we have this attached link. I can post this. There's no due date. There's no points. This is just a material, and it's different than an assignment. And so this would be just posting it. And same thing, I would go and I would select that I'm posting it to my science class, and I'm going to post it. So now my post is going to be saved. Yes, I want to post that. And students will see the material in their streams immediately. One thing we've added as part of the Google Classroom version of these units is a summary post. So every lesson has a summary post, and sometimes there's more than one summary post for the lesson. I'm going to show you first a version of a summary post from a lesson that's midway through the lesson. So this is a lesson 3 summary post. We're going to go ahead and edit it. So this post summarizes what happened in the lesson. The idea of this would be at the end of completing lesson 3, you would share this summary post with your students. So you wouldn't do it at the beginning. This would be at the end of lesson 3. And it's a summary of what we did in lesson 3. So to figure out why the one-way mirror acts like both a mirror and a window, we observed what happened when light shined on the one-way mirror, a pane of glass, and a regular mirror. We developed a testable question, planned the investigation, and used a light meter to measure the amount of light that transmitted through and reflected off each material. So this is a summary of what happened during that lesson. We wouldn't want to do this and post it before the lesson or midway through. We're posting it at the end of lesson 3. We also include in here a link to the PDF of the slides. So if any students were absent or they needed to review any of this and wanted to go back in it, there's a PDF of the slides here that is attached to that post. And both of these are very helpful for co-teachers, parents, a variety of different ways of sharing it, catching up absent students. And so these exist for every single lesson. And sometimes we have that more than one for a lesson. And that happens typically only in lesson 1. You'll see that in lesson 1, sometimes we have an end of day summary because that first lesson has a lot going on and there's a lot of interesting parts of it. So in this particular lesson, we have a summary at the end of day 1, and we can look at this together. It says, in this lesson, we watched a puzzling video of a music student. So this post is meant to be given at the end of day 1 after they've started with the anchoring phenomena routine. So in this case, we want to have students, we want to give them access to the video that we watched so that they could refer back to it again and the slides from that section. So this is the case when we have a summary post that's for a day rather than the completion of a lesson. And that usually only happens with the lesson 1. So those are the summary posts. should you decide to not use those summary posts as a teacher, you just would never assign them. So there's no need to assign all of these draft items. If you find them to not be useful, then you just leave them as drafts and don't assign them to your own classes with enrolled students. Now that I've synced one of my classes, if I'd like to go back and sync another class, I don't need to give permission again. That permission should be remembered for a certain period of time, and then it will be forgotten. And that's one of the ways of ensuring that your data is safe. But since I just gave permission right now, I should be able to sync my Spanish version and not have to authorize this application in the same way. So here's my pop-up, and I've jumped all the way to sync in progress. So I don't need to select which account I want to do. We've already identified which account I want to do, and I don't need to authorize it because I've already given authorization. So now my sync is in process, and this is for the Spanish version of the unit. I'm going to go ahead and wait. So my sync is now successful, and I can check out my new class. So this says Unit 6.1, Light and Matter. This is the Spanish version now. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this. And already I'm being asked to accept. Do I want to teach this class? And I do. So here is my class. It's 6.1, Light and Matter, Spanish. And when I look at the classwork, we'll see that all of the items are translated into Spanish, both the titles and the description of what students should be doing. You can also see that the items that are attached are also translated items. So the handouts are in Spanish, and we can see that it has the same exact posts. Everything has been translated into Spanish so that you can share this with students and assign it to particular groups of students or entire classes. So now that we've synced our classes to our Google Classroom, we have both our Light and Matter in English and our Light and Matter in Spanish. I want to show you what the Google Drive looks like and where I have different folders now showing up. So as a reminder, when we looked at this before, there were not a lot of folders or files in this drive. What I have now are a few different folders in my drive. There's a master folder called Classroom. And in here, I have my folder from my existing class, the My Science class, period 1. So there's a folder for that. And then I have a folder for Light and Matter English and Light and Matter Spanish, and some additional folders here that are outside of Classroom that hold all of the unit resources that would be assigned through Classroom. So here's the Light and Matter English, here's the Light and Matter Spanish, here's all the files that we're going to be assigning as part of this Google Classroom use. So we're going to take a moment to look at how these folders here as part of the Classroom folder, how they connect to the Google Drive uploader, and where you can go to find the work that you've assigned to your students. So as a reminder, with the demo that I did, I edited an assignment within the Light and Matter OpenSciEd version. So kind of the master copy, I edited a version, I added the word today to the initial model, and then I assigned it to the class with students. So here, if I open up My Science class, period 1, we have people. This is the one that had 4 students in it. So here are my 4 enrolled students, and I have assigned an item here. I did the initial model for today. This is what I posted, and here I can see that 2 have turned it in and 2 have not turned it in. It's still assigned to 2. So I have 4 students. Half of my students have turned this in. So the way that this works is when I look back at my Google Drive, the master copy is here. This is where the templates are. And this is where an assignment folder is, but there are no students in this class, so no work would ever be turned into this folder. Instead, when I go to look for the work that was turned in, I'm going to look in here in my science class, and here we have lesson one initial model. And you can see that I have my students have started to turn this in. So here is the one with the purple smiley face. Sarah Delaney turned this in to me. And then I have a different copy here that was turned in by another student. So these are automatically named based on the user. And this is where I'll find the assignment that I assigned. So it shows up in my actual folder for the classes where I have enrolled students. Now, looking at the drive, I'm going to point out something that's important for people to consider when they're using our materials with the bulk uploader. We see here that there's a folder with all of the files that are being assigned through Google Classroom. And this is a useful thing to have. It has to be here in order to be able to attach it. But these are not all of the unit resources. It's going to be important that teachers download all of the items from our website, either the PDF version or the Google version, in order to make it easier for teachers and students to know which items exist in Google Classroom and which items do not. We've made a summary sheet lesson by lesson that talks about which of the items are posted and live inside Google Classroom. For example, the initial model that we just looked at, that assignment is in Google Classroom, and what things live in the paper notebook. So in this case, there's a notice and wonder chart that students make for the first lesson of this unit, and that would happen in the notebook, not in Google Classroom. So these are meant to describe how we've built it, and you as an educator are welcome and encouraged to adjust this based on the needs of your classroom and how you plan on using them. This is just a starting point.